All right, this is JPEG to RAW, show number 213, coming from, what is it, May 15th? May 15th?
May 15th, 2018.
Yep, he skipped 2 weeks. One, both Tim and I were out of town. Tim was here. I left town because I heard Tim was coming.
Yeah.
And
it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful weather down in Atlanta.
It was.
And I dragged it back up to New York with me.
I was 2 hours away from here, and it was beautiful where I was too. It's just a gorgeous time, and I wish I'd have been here so we could meet, but we missed each other. But we're back today. We have a few topics to go over, and before we get to that, let's bring up the that's something that says April. Let me refresh this and see if it will change. It did. There we go. All right, let's talk about the May photo contest. May, we're halfway through the month, but the theme, we're going to do themes of, we're going to do the open thing, Tim, for a while, because everybody's all excited about themes, and we get lots of people who vote on a theme. Hey, I want to do this theme, I want to do that theme, because it's exciting to think about the theme. But I think once it gets time to actually do it, actually doing the theme gets a little more difficult. So
within those 4 weeks, it's like, I'll do it next week. And before you know it, the month's out. Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do is do open for a while, and then we'll, come back eventually to that. But open, pick your own theme. It can be anything you want.
Correct.
As I wait and see if the Facebook thing started for me. Yeah, there we go. Just behind. Okay, so go out there you to JPEG to RAW /contest. There you have links to, you can enter from our website, and you also have links to our 2 Facebook groups, beginner and regular, where you can enter on either one of those, whichever one you feel more comfortable entering through. We'd love to have you join. You got 16 more days, because this is a 31-day month, to enter, and we hope to see you out there. Jan, hopefully. All right, so that is the photo contest. Tim, I mentioned that I was out of town while you were here in town, and also I'll come back to that. But I was out of town, and they wanted to take photos. It's a business trip that I had to go on, like you had to go on a business trip. They wanted to take photos, like we do every year, of some of the people who were there, and a lot of spouses come too. So they were getting ready to set up their tripod and their camera. I guess they had a tripod. I don't know. I am not there as part of that team. I'm there. It's the officers of our company. I'm there as an officer. So there's a team of people who, our people who set this up, and I know them. Some of them have even worked for me in the past. So they came to me frantically and said, "Hey, do you have a memory card we can use?" And I said, "I do have a memory card. I don't know if it fits your camera. What kind of camera do you have?"
Yeah, really.
And they said, "Well, we have a Nikon." I said, "Okay, that doesn't narrow it down that much. What kind do you need?" And so I brought both of mine. I usually have both of mine in here. That was it, XQD, which they couldn't use, or the what is this one? The
compact flash?
No, not compact flash. SD card, XD.
Just regular SD card. Okay.
Yeah. So I said, okay, let's see if it'll work, because mine is a 128 gig card. I don't know if your camera will take that. It apparently won't. It only took a 1 gig card, so they could not get this one.
1 gig. Yeah, what kind of camera were they using?
I think it was like a Nikon D50 or something like that. It was pretty old.
Oh my God.
So that didn't work. So they said, "Can we borrow your camera?"
Your camera.
I said, "You mean the camera that I just got back from repair?" The camera that I haven't even really been able to, I haven't used it myself in a photo shoot, just test shots. That camera?
Yes,
the one that I am kind of particular about my equipment. I've never let anybody borrow my equipment, and here's the reason why. You may not agree with me, Gary or Jan or Amber or Nick. You may not agree with me, but what I fear is, let's say I hand you my camera. This is a cheaper lens on here, but I hand you my camera, and I have my 7200 on, or any lens. The camera itself, this camera's $1,500-$1,600, and whatever lens is going to add to that. And you in your mind may be thinking, that's like my camera where I spent $500 on it, even $500 is a lot of money, and you drop it,
and
you do something like that. Now, are you going to pay me back? Are you going to pay me for that? And when I tell you that it's going to cost $800 to fix it, or what if it can't be fixed? Or if you break the lens, and then you get in a situation where I'm hounding you for the money. I just don't want to be in that situation. I want to be in a situation where I'm putting you in a spot where you're going to owe me a bunch of money, and me in a spot where I'm having to get the money from you. Mm-hmm. So my policy has always been, nope, you cannot use my equipment. But in this case, they had no choice. So I said, all right, I will let you borrow it. I'm going to put it on the tripod, and you're going to use my tripod, and I'm going to set it up. And
you're just going to press the button.
And
matter of fact, I have a remote control.
You're going to press the button, and I'm going to stand there with you. And the other thing is, I had to do something else I've never done before. And this was more of just a, one of those moments when you go through life and you've never done something, and you don't want this to be the first time. This is a minor thing, but I've never put the camera, any of my DSLRs, ever in auto mode.
Not even
P, yeah, and this camera's P. I've never ever done that on any of them, and that was not.
And you did for this person because you didn't know it. Yeah,
it's not going to work. They're not going to be able to do any other mode. And where we had people setting, because they had no flash. I didn't bring a flash. I wasn't prepared to do flash. This was outside. The light was changing, so it's not something I can sit there in every shot, do something for them. So I'm going to have to put this in auto mode, because I can't have them doing anything but really pushing the shutter. So I decided before they did it, that remember last time, Tim, I showed you where I can set up photo banks.
Right.
So let me show you real quick on my camera. On my camera, this is a Nikon D500. I have a shooting bank, and I have a custom settings bank. So what I did is I had one for sports, one for landscapes. I set up one called Guest.
Something you never thought you would set up.
Yep. So I set up one Guest, and hopefully I don't have to use this very often. And I said the same thing on the shooting thing. I set up one called Guest. And what that's going to do is I'll put it in auto mode. I will then set this where it's, actually what I had to do. So on mine, I use back button focus. Where is this at? Where you can see it. Back button focus. I use this button. They're never going to figure that out. They just want to press the shutter button. So on that Guest mode, I move it from here to the shutter. So they just have to press the shutter.
Okay, so press halfway down the shutter, and it'll do it instead.
It'll focus, and then when you press the shutter button, it'll take the photo. When I shoot, pressing the shutter button doesn't take a photo.
What do you mean it doesn't?
I'm sorry. It does take a photo. It doesn't focus. This is
will your camera take a picture if it's out of focus, or does it wait till it's in focus, or is that a separate setting?
It is a separate setting. It's here in the autofocus mode where you go like to whether it's release, focus, whatever. So you can set it to where take the photo no matter what. Take the photo with a priority toward focus. Take a photo with priority toward release. All that kind of stuff. So. I think for sports, I said I would set it for release, doing that. But I set up a Guest mode. So if you have a Nikon, for a long time, I don't think it's necessarily a new one. They have where you can set up these banks. And I generally have one sports, one landscape. I might have a third one for like outdoor sports versus indoor sports, that kind of stuff. But this kind, doing a Guest one, I didn't have to worry about what all settings was I changing, what was I screwing up and have to remember to undo.
Right, exactly.
I just set up.
That's just as much of a hassle.
Yeah. I just did that, and then as soon as they were done, I switched back to my landscape. I was going to take some landscape shots while I was there, so I switched back to that. Gary says he can't get used to back button focus. It's not for everyone. It depends on what you're shooting to. If you're, once I got used to it, I really like it because it's almost, you can hold it down and then you can frame your shot, let go, and then take the shot. In that case, it's almost like, what is that called? Instead of servo or continuous focus, it's almost like single focus. So I like using back button focus. It's handy, but if you can't get used to it, it can be a pain.
Right. I remember the first time I used it on a friend's Canon, and I had no clue. I was like, it's not focusing. Yes, it is. No, it's not. He's like, no, you got to press the button. I'm pressing the shutter halfway down. He's like, not that button. I was like, what button? It's not that button. What other button would I be looking for? And then he explained it. He was like, okay. I'm like, well, that's pretty stupid, but
yeah,
it's what you get used to, no doubt about.
It is what you get used to. I got used to, and I always used the shutter button, and I now have gotten used to the back button back button focus, and it's like you said, if you can't get used to it, if you're so used to using the shutter button and using that is not working, use what works. That's one of the reasons the menus are there, is that what works for me may not work for you. And Nikon, and I'm sure Canon and Sony too, allow a lot of customization so that the camera can fit more to what we want.
I think the biggest problem is, I think that is the biggest problem for people switching between camera brands. The changes in the settings and just the feel. And you always say, don't buy a new camera before you go on vacation, or at least buy it 2 or 3 months and use it before. That means switching camera brands is probably more painful.
Yeah.
Because you think you know what you're going to be doing, but then when you try to use a camera, it's like, well, this isn't the right place. Well, it's the right place for this camera vendor.
Yeah, that's right. Right. And then of course, if you've done any setting changes, it's going to be even worse. All right. So let me show you something else here. So I'll go out and I'm going to take landscape shots, and I'm setting up on a tripod, and I'm going to use my live view to shoot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're seeing on the right. It's not very good right now.
Now your live view's through the back of the camera, not through the eye cup, right?
Right. Because this is a DSLR. It has the mirror.
Okay.
So when I hit info, so this is on Nikon D500 again. Canons and of course Sonys are different. One thing you don't see on the back there is a histogram, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no histogram. So if I hit info, I can scroll through all of my options here. There's no choice for a histogram. So how do I get an Instagram? I hit info, and now I can cycle through several things. There's a grid. That's nice.
Right.
There's a level. That's a level.
I like that level. Mine, I just got a couple of.
So there's a level, and now we're back to this.
Nice.
So you go. Oh, hold on a second. Again, there's no histogram. How do I get a histogram on this thing? If you go through the menu. If you go into menu, you'll never find a way to turn it on or off. It's not there. I'm sure in the actual manual, it tells you how to do this. But I didn't have the manual with me because it's somewhere on a shelf behind me rather than out in the field as I'm set up on a tripod trying to figure out how the heck do I get a histogram on here. So let's go back to live view. And it's out of focus, but it doesn't matter what I'm focused on. And I go back to here and I'll cycle through these again. And you see there's nothing there. There's this little OK button. If I hit that, now look what just popped up on the right-hand side.
Okay, your meter.
The little meter. And you go, okay, is that all I get? I get that.
Oh, so now you cycle through it again.
So now when I cycle through, there's the histogram.
Oh, look at that.
There's a histogram. Now I have a histogram, and I can, do whatever I need to do with that.
That is very odd. So
if you're out there and you got a Nikon, I think it's a little bit different on different Nikons. So if you're having trouble, probably the manual is the way to go. But at least on the Nikon D500, the D5, and maybe some of the newer ones, try hitting this. When you're in live view, you hit the info button and you scroll through and you don't see the little meter on the right-hand side, try hitting your OK button and see if that turns it on and off. And once you have it turned on, now you can get the histogram.
All right, so what does OK stand for? Any idea? Or
it's some of the times when you're doing something in the menus and you need to hit OK.
Okay, accept or something.
Yeah,
okay.
Accept or something like that. So there's your little tip.
I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, that took me a while. Whenever I was out taking photos and I really wanted to see the histogram there. while I was, getting my landscape shots. And so it took me a good bit of playing around before I figured out, oh, I got to hit this button. Had I had, the manual, I'm sure it was in there. I just did not have the manual with me. So that was of no use.
I can't remember the last time I looked at my menu.
Yeah, to be honest, me either. I haven't looked at it in a long time. But there you go.
And I'm sure when I bought it, I read it, because I always do. I always read through it, and 90% of it is always the same. But there's always that something different.
There is, even with, if you're Sony, I'm Nikon. There's lots of Canon users. Even between models, this one is different from my D700,
right? Which
is, this one came out nearly the same time as the D750, and I'm sure that there's differences there too.
Mm-hmm.
In those, so. It helps sometimes to read those the manuals and find out what, if you're having trouble with your camera, or look it up on YouTube or something like that. All right, Tim. So that is my little tip for today. You have, and then I have too. You have a couple articles, some news to talk about. One of them. That interests me, and is something I struggle with, and that is what to do when you don't have time for photography.
Yeah, and this was a really good, actually, it's more of a video than an article. He talks about, everybody says, well, I never have time for photography. And I know I get caught in that, right? Especially in the winter months. And what he talked about is in the video, I think it was about a 14.5-minute video. Yeah. So it's actually good to watch it, is setting up specific times to go out there. And instead of saying I need a block of, because like you talked before, Mike, we're not full-time photographers, and I don't think he was either. Setting up time, instead of 4 hours, try and get an hour a day. And what he wound up doing, he's like, well, today I'm going to go out. And one of the examples is he went out with his daughter, dropped her off at her dance class, and said they gave him an hour to go out there and do photography. Now, granted, he said the lighting conditions weren't good. It wasn't the subjects he wanted, but it forced him to go out there and be creative with what was available to him. So he talked about taking pictures of textures, shadows, or the like. And he went up 45 minutes, and he said, granted, majority of it was probably not that good. He posted some of the pictures, and they were nice pictures. I mean, some pretty plain, but some shots there that were actually pretty pleasing as well. But it helps you just develop your skill. And really what the gist of the entire video was, setting out whenever you have an opportunity. I could see myself just sitting when my daughter's got a dance class. I'd sit there with my phone and go through articles on the phone or play a game or whatever. So instead of doing that, just force yourself to go out there with your camera and go take pictures. And it gives you the ideas. And really, it was a really good article in regards to that, as to giving you an idea of when to find time. And you got to make yourself time so that you can get better.
And, life, we got mothers that watch, we got fathers that watch, we got the people who are like you and I, have full-time jobs that are not photography. We have people who are full-time photographers. Life gets in the way and sucks up a lot of your time. For me, at work, I have probably a little over 80 people that report to me in multiple departments, and you can get sucked into the day-to-day where you have no time to do anything. So what I try and do is say, I'm going to try and do this every day at this time. Let's say I'm going to try and work on this project from 4 to 5 every day. And it doesn't always work. Matter of fact, probably more than half the time I don't get to do it.
Absolutely.
The other thing
something else
gets in the way.
Has to get done. A fire.
But by having that mindset of, and the original goal was, I don't care what I'm working on, at 4 o'clock, I'm working on this project. That was the thought. And continue to have that thought, and then letting other things get in the way when they're more important, allows me to, when there's not something getting in the way that's more important, to then, all right, I'll go off and do that. What that does is I am getting progress on that, but I'm not beating myself up when something else gets in the way.
Right.
Because you're never going to be able to devote as much time as you want to every project. With kids, every mother, probably more mothers than fathers, but every mother and most fathers will probably think they're not doing any of their jobs well. Their spouse job, their kid job, their job, their whatever else. They probably think they're failing at all of them. And because they're not to be able to devote whatever time they want to or think they need to each one of those. There's just not enough time in a day. So in my approach would be to set aside time, or in your mind, I'm going to try and do this at this time. And when you can't do it, don't beat yourself up. But, when you can, do it. Like you said, you're looking at your phone and stuff like that. Sometimes maybe you want to. Other times that may be a good time to
pick up the camera.
Pick up the camera and go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to take those moments.
I definitely think so. I mean, it's too easy to go do something else.
It is. Often, you've teased me about all these monitors here that I have. And if you're watching the show, you can't, all you see is me. You can't see all the monitors, but there's 8 of them and the one behind me. They can be very distracting. I come down here with a purpose, and I get down here and something pops up on this one, and I get distracted with that. And before I know it, I'm an hour, 2 hours into doing nothing because the original task is not getting done. So, you have to try and cut back on those distractions.
Absolutely. You can get easily caught up in something, and before you know it, it's like, I came down to do it. My wife's like, well, did you get it done? Yeah, no.
Yep, didn't even get started on
it. Yeah, I don't go that far to say that.
Yeah. So, yep, that's the thing. Don't beat yourself up, but try and set aside time for those things like photography that you want to do more of. If your business is photography, you don't have no choice. But even in that, you may have your business may be shooting weddings or shooting portraits or doing whatever, but your passion of what you want to shoot may include other things that you can't make money from, but you want to do it because that's what you want. You got to find time for those things too.
Absolutely.
All right, Tim, I'm going to bring up something that is company that you love, but whatever. I guess they're all right. And that is this new phone. I'm going to talk about a phone here for a second. New phone from Sony that is I think it's a version of how do you pronounce that? Xperia X72?
Yeah, Xperia is what I would call it.
But it's like the premium or the platinum or something like that. And what's crazy about this phone is it's got two cameras, which is not so unusual now. But it will take what will it take? 960 frames per second of full HD.
Say it again.
960 frames a second of full HD, 1080p.
So what, you get super slow motion?
Yeah, that would be super slow motion. If yes, you could then turn it into a super slow motion thing.
My goodness gracious.
4K HDR movie recording. And where was it? HDR photos, of course, but we all have that a lot.
Right, yeah.
But it's actually using something different than what, like my Galaxy S5 or whatever this is. No, Note 5. He's doing something different with this one is because I think this one's using just software. What that one's using is the camera. One camera is shooting in black and white, and the other one's shooting in color, and it's using those two to create the dynamic range.
Wow.
It is, so I hear many people saying that their phone, and my phone will take as good a cameras as your big camera, will take as good images as your big camera, and it won't. But every advance they make on the tiny little processor in here will make it into our bigger cameras too.
Absolutely, yes. I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, so if they are able to find a way to reduce the noise, because this thing also shoots, what was it shooting at? ISO 51,200 for photos, which is insane in a phone, and it's using those two cameras to help blend, weed out or however you cancel out the noise.
I mean, even the low light video is 12,800.
Yeah.
Now, and the funny thing is, this past Friday I was taking pictures and I had to take video, and it was actually dark conditions, and I tried to use my camera, and I couldn't get it bright enough.
Yeah.
I used my phone, and it was more than usable. Yeah, and I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, and I remember when you're looking at these nice looking images on your phone, it's on a 2-inch screen or 3-inch screen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I mean, blow them up on your monitor at home. It may not be as good, but I love seeing advances in the phones because if you can do it on a tiny little sensor like that, you can do it on a bigger sensor in our cameras. So with that, Sony has been the leader in the mirrorless cameras, not the phones, but the ones like yours, which is what? Which one do you have?
My phone.
Yeah.
No, you mean my camera?
Your camera, yeah.
A77.
A77. Okay, so they've been kicking Canon and Nikon's butt in mirrorless because really, what do Canon and Nikon have for a mirrorless?
I don't even know what they got.
I
know Nikon just came out with something I think Canon did, but I couldn't even tell you what they have.
Yeah. And Jan says it's a camera that doubles as a phone. That may be true, yeah. But that said, Nikon now has said that they are going to do what's the quote here? Nikon Pro mirrorless coming along at a rapid pace, launch within a year. Their year, I think, ends in March of 2019, their physical year. So they've said it'll be done before then. Canon says the same thing. The rumor is that they'll both announce, if not release, or have it there for people to play with at Photokina 2018, which is I don't know when that is. Before March 2019, but they're both going to have it there. Canon, I love this quote. Canon, if I can find it here. Canon stated last month that it's now willing to cannibalize the sales of its DSLR cameras to make a bigger splash in mirrorless.
I think they have to, because if they don't, they're just going to lose sales and not have it anywhere else.
I've said this on the show before. That comes back to a comment I've said where, especially large companies, feel that they're above the lower competition. Not that I would ever, even back in the day, they should not have underestimated Sony. Sony was not a small company. It is not a small company. But they probably figured, I'm Nikon, I'm Canon, no one can touch us in this. And if I make a mirrorless camera, it's going to cannibalize my DSLRs. I can't do that. But what they always fail to forget is if you don't cannibalize your cameras, someone else will. And that's what Sony's been doing. Sony has been taking, they're not just operating within current Sony users, they're taking Canon and Nikon users.
Right, and they're number 2 now, right? They passed Nikon?
They did. Yeah. And that is because the two of them didn't have a mirrorless solution.
When you hear a lot of people that went out there, was probably the first big photographer that I know that switched over was Trey Ratcliffe. Yeah, he got rid of it, and it was because of the size. And I know when I go on vacation or something, carrying my equipment is a pain in the neck.
Yeah,
especially when I'm down in the Florida sun, 90+ degrees. I usually don't take my 7200 for those into, let's say, the Disney park anyway, because I'm not going to use it there. So that's the good saving grace with that. But
now it'd be interesting. Go ahead.
No, it's still heavy.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that Canon and Nikon. I'm a Nikon shooter, so mainly I'm hoping Nikon. It still comes out with the same F mount, that I can use all my current lenses for it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Is the mount going to stay the same? Because that was the thing that annoyed me by Sony. They went from the A mount to the E mount, and you know what? That for all intents and purposes, that's switching brands. Yeah, the controls, like we talked about earlier, are probably relatively the same, but just the lenses, and that's really the expense. Well, even the bodies are expensive, and I just don't have the money for it.
I went to a wedding this past weekend. I was just a guest. I was there to see a nephew get married, and I was watching the photographers. There was a lady and a guy, and I never got to talk to them because they never had a moment. The whole time I was there, they're busy, and I didn't want to be the guest that bothers them. But I watched them a lot, and she was shooting with a Canon, and at first I couldn't tell. I thought he was shooting with a Nikon, but as I got closer, I realized he was shooting with a Sony.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was shooting with Sony. Now, I'm not familiar with Sony brands. So they have one with the built-in grip at the bottom? because it looked like that.
Is it built in? I don't think.
Maybe it was an add-on. It was. Yeah. It looked like a bigger camera. That's why I thought it was a Nikon from a distance. But then when he turned sideways, I can see it was pretty thin. I go, oh no, that's not a.
So that was one of the that's one of the A7s, and you probably had the accessory pack on it.
But even with that, with the lenses on there, it's definitely not a small camera. Once you add a nice 7200 or whatever lens he had on it, is not small. He had a neat little tattoo of a shutter on his inside of his arm. That's pretty cool. Yes. When I got there, the mother of the groom said, "Hey, did you bring your camera?" I said, "Nope. Did not bring my camera."
No. And everybody expects you to.
Yeah, she said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, one, you have photographers. Two, if they somehow got in a car crash on the way here, I'm not your backup." You're just without photos. I'm not bringing the camera.
Yeah, really. Wow.
I admire what they do, and they're hard workers and for long hours under lots of pressure. But that's not going to be me. Not going to be me.
No, I said I did one wedding, and it was just a reception. Man, that was nerve-wracking for me. I was so busy.
Well, almost everything I saw them do looked like, from an observer standpoint, went really smooth. There was one spot where we're in the reception. Everybody's waiting for the wedding party to come in. The wedding party is right outside the door. I can see them. But the photographers are having trouble with the lighting. They have the flash, and they're trying to use the flash to drive the remote strobes, and it wasn't working. And they never looked panicked. They obviously have been doing this for a while. They never looked panicked. Come over there and swapped out one of the flashes on theirs, put a new flash in, boom, good to go. And then motion, thumbs up, and everything went back on track. And it probably took a whole minute or something, where I would have been just panicking and said, that's the last wedding I'm ever doing. I'm never doing this again.
They also had the extra flash. I mean, would you have had the?
That's true. They came with extra flash. Both of them had two cameras, one in a holster, one they were shooting with, and they were able to swap back and forth. So they were definitely prepared. All right, Tim, you have an article that is the title of the show.
Title of the show: One in a Trillion.
One in a trillion.
Now, I got to imagine a lot of people have already seen this this picture or the article. It was just so amazing that I wanted to bring it up. And Doc John was the name of the photographer, and it was just a happenstance that he took this picture. He was walking along the beach with his Canon 60 and a Sigma 150 500 millimeter lens, and somebody asked him, "Well, with that lens, what kind of pictures can you take?" So he just decided he looked up in the sky and he saw an osprey. And he just started taking pictures of it. And lo and behold, he realized right away that the osprey was carrying a fish in its hand. So you think, all right, this is a great shot. It wasn't until he got home that night and he zoomed in. Now the pictures, he admits the pictures are not good by any stretch. And these are probably very zoomed in photos that he got. Not only is the osprey carrying a fish, it's actually a shark. And in the shark's mouth is another fish. So this is, and it reminded me of a couple of movies. I think one of the Star Wars movies had it where they were under the water and they got bit by one fish, and then a larger fish ate the other fish. Well, that's kind of what this is. I mean, this bird is going to get a double meal. I guess he's going to have his appetizer and then his main meal all in one shot. And it's a great shot. One in a trillion is really what it is. And some people actually made negative comments about it, which I thought was really sad, saying, well, it's not really in focus and it's pixelated. But the guy knew it. So he wound up, as soon as he realized this was getting caught by news medias, he took the pictures that he has in his regular portfolio and put it up on Facebook. And it's driven a lot of volume toward him to see the other pictures he had. He said, this is not my best picture, but probably never, ever going to get a shot like this again. And sure, he got quite a few pictures of it, and you look at the close-up pictures, and I think it's the second one. You could see the tail of the shark. That's when he realized.
You definitely see the tail right there.
Right, and then you looked at the mouth. It's like, oh my God, there's a fish in the shark's mouth.
Yeah, he caught a shark.
And you got to remember, an osprey's a pretty big bird. You probably, when you look at it, you think to yourself, all right, maybe a hawk or an eagle, but no, an osprey is a pretty big bird.
Yeah, he caught a shark eating a fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty incredible.
When I first saw the article, I was like, was like, all right, so you cut. I was like, I'm sure I've seen a picture of a bird with a fish in its hand, but then when you realize the additional parts of it, that was just an amazing shot. And you know what? This is one of those again where he couldn't have had the picture if he didn't have his camera.
True.
So it goes right back to that other article.
Exactly. And, you know, yeah, we've seen lots of photos of birds with fish. That's a common thing.
Right. I mean, that's what they eat.
But yeah, seeing with the fish, eating the fish. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if I've seen them catching a shark before. I'm sure it happens all the time, but I don't know if I've seen a photo.
That's probably the first time I've ever seen. And he did say it's a small shark.
Yeah, obviously it's a small shark. You know, bird's not going to eat a normal shark.
Yeah, but it's an amazing shot either way.
Yeah. That is cool. All right. That was all the articles we had, right? And then I have, before we go into my feature photographer for the for this week, something, I don't know what is happening. You know, the internet is a weird thing, but I've been getting a lot more emails lately, not from people who I think watch the show, but from people who want to put some kind of article on the website, Tim. So they will say, hey, I enjoyed watching blank show, and they have a link to the show. It looks like you are also a fan of beards. Beards. I'm not, how would you know I'm a fan or not a fan? And they have a great beard article that they would like to put on my website, and they'll pay me to put their beard article on my website.
The beard article?
Yeah, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, really.
So I email them back and say, sounds very interesting. Just like to know why you think that your beard article would do so great on my photography website. And never hear back from them. And then from a totally unrelated, or the link at least is unrelated, it may be the same group, I get an article, somebody wanting to put an article about bear spray.
Bear spray? Yeah. Now we've probably talked about bears, but
well, you know, we had I'm horrible with names, but the photographer from Alaska up there, we had him on the show. Right,
and that's easily 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I don't know if they linked to that one or not, but somehow they think bear spray would do well on the site. So strange thing, no, bear spray and beards don't do well on the sites. Go find some other site. With that, we did get a number of articles, a number of emails, Tim, on the eye dominance.
Okay, yes.
One.
And that was interesting. And I've talked to a couple of people, and nobody realized it until after they saw it, and they were so surprised by it.
Yeah.
When you talk about it.
One person, so this is interesting. One person who emailed us said that, and the reason I'm not going to mention your name is let me go ahead and say it now. If you email us and you don't want me to announce your name, or you don't even want me to bring up your email, say it in the email. Say, Mike, don't mention this on air, or Mike, don't mention my name on air. Mm-hmm. Since that's my first time saying that, I'll mention in paraphrasing the person's email, but I won't mention the name. So person emailed and said that they were, I'm going to get this wrong, so again, this is paraphrasing. They were left eye dominant. Then they were in a horrible bike accident, bicycle, not motorbike, where they it really messed up their vision, messed up their sight, and I think they even went into had a concussion or went into a coma, something like that. When it came out, they were right eye dominant.
Oh wow!
It switched, and they were not like 14. They were older. They were our age or older, and their dominant eye switched. Part of it was because their eyes now were at this was a horrible accent. Their eyes were at a slight slant. And in the left eye, they basically couldn't use that eye. And they have to constantly remember that when they're shooting, that they have to shoot at a 5-degree slant, because what looks normal to them is actually a 5-degree slant.
Wow, that's difficult.
Yeah, that sounds very difficult. And there's actually some overlap in their vision. To me, that sounds like I would have a headache nonstop. Yeah. But I guess the mind...
Sounds like I'd be wearing an eye patch.
The mind is or you can wear an eye patch. The mind is an incredible thing. Even at our ages, it will adjust to some of that and allow you to, go on. It's not going to completely compensate, but it does do some amazing things. But their eye dominance move from one eye to the other.
Mm-hmm. So, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So this week I have a and I'd like to get this person on the show. This is what this person does. The feature photographer for this week is really a great idea that I'm sure he's not the first to think of it, but I've never thought of it. Even though I've done some very, very small scale stuff like this, I've never thought about it. And that is Pelle Cass, PelleCass, and it's pellecass.com is his website. So you look at this, and he's taking these photos of these female divers who are incredible. Look at there's so many flying off here at one time, and they don't hit each other. It's not incredible.
So this isn't like a multiple exposure. This is
a multiple exposure. What he does is he goes to sporting events. It's just one of the things he does. He goes to sporting events, and he will set up on a tripod, obviously, and take photos over the course of the event, and then he'll choose who to leave in the shot. So there's probably lots of people who were hitting, when you overlap like this, they were in the same space and that kind of stuff. He chooses which people to leave in. And let's go and look at some of the others that he's done, because there's just some that are really incredible. So we had the diving one. This is a track race.
Okay.
I mean, it obviously they look very busy. It looks like chaos, but it's just, it's an incredible idea, and how it's a lot of work after the fact. But
so this reminds me of what almost like what Dom Kamarachka does with the snowflakes.
Yeah, I'm sure this takes a lot of work after the fact. There's hockey, and what I'm wondering is he deciding, nope, I don't want hardly anybody in the stands,
right?
Because I guess if you get there early enough, you take a shot of the stands with nobody in it, or very few people in it. You can then choose who, maybe I don't want anybody in the stands.
Right, yeah, because you just cut them out.
Look at the football; it's just insane.
It's a lot of plays going on there.
Yeah, and this one of the soccer. Look at all the balls in the air.
Those were all balls that were kicked in the air. Wow,
those are all balls in the air.
Seems like a heck of a lot. I mean, my kids play soccer, and I don't remember. I tell them keep it down low.
Some of those balls are pretty high. I'm not sure. And these are
you know what? You also got the goalie punting the ball, so that
is true. That may be where it's coming from. The goalie punting the ball, because these are older kids who probably don't kick normally that high.
Right.
The
synchronized swimming.
I guess it's synchronized swimming. Maybe it's water polo. I bet you.
Oh yeah, probably.
I don't see a ball anywhere.
No, in the bottom, like in the 7 o'clock position, isn't that a ball there?
Yep.
I was going to point. Don't you see that, Mike?
Yeah, move a mouse right here. Can you see the mouse?
Not even lower.
But isn't that a ball?
I think I'm thinking it's white. Go to your right now. You're right. Nope. You're on the right.
Oh,
the other right there. What is that?
That looks like a back of a head, because I see a number on it.
Oh, okay.
I think it's this. I think this is the ball.
Right, maybe, and you're right to the top, right 45 degrees northeast of that looks like another one too.
You're right there. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's yellow.
Yeah. There's a basketball game.
That's a lot of shots.
Which is just crazy. If it wouldn't be for so much work, this would be really fun to do. Here's football. Another football one, which is just, again, crazy.
It's actually amazing how spread out they are on the field in this. You would think if you watch a lot of football, a lot of it is down the center.
Yeah.
And here there's just so much along the outskirts of the field as well.
Now, I didn't take the time here, but you do, of course, see some of the same players. Here's 13. Yeah. Here's 13 again. Here's 7. Here's 7 again. I'm sure if we took more time, we'd see a lot of.
There's probably
there's 41. There's 41 again. Because you obviously have to use the same players over again, but he did a good job of having the red and white jerseys kind of somewhat even.
I think what you don't get with this also is, obviously the exposure is changing. Is it a completely sunny day when he's doing this, or completely overcast? Because you got to figure this is easily taken that over half hour. These pictures.
Yeah,
It's not. They're not all over the field that quickly.
Right. And there's some more of the divers.
Diving at the same time, yes.
Female, what is that? Lacrosse. More of the divers. This is male and female. And what is that?
Is that lacrosse also? I can't tell.
I
think I see a stick.
I think I see a stick too. There's more of the track.
Track and field. He likes diving.
He does like diving. Or hockey from a different standpoint. That one is cool. That is cool.
That is really cool with all the balls around and without a lot of people. I like that. That might be one of my favorites.
Of the group, that may be my favorite too. And Gary says, I think he's cutting them out and pasting them in. That, he could be doing that. Now that one just looks like runners.
Yeah. That looks like one player.
Yeah.
I mean, that almost looks like that could be just a regular picture, right?
Yeah. Maybe am I circling back around the same? Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I think now you definitely saw that one before.
So check out Pele. Am I saying it right? Cass. Pelle.
It's not Pele. Pele.
He also does selected people. I don't know if this one is something he's doing the same thing where he's taking a busy street over a certain amount of time and then selecting
a triangle.
Selecting who leave in there. This one would be added complication of the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to work on getting those out. So I don't know what exactly this series is. I didn't research this one, where he is just if he's just taking a standard shot or if he's actually
because that looks like it could be a standard shot.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
But this is one of those things. If you want to take a shot of a spot that's really busy, you could use a really long shutter to blur people out, or you can take multiple exposures and then clone the people out.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is the feature photographer for this week. I found either way, it's pretty cool. It's something I've done it with my sons where I would have them sitting, somewhere and, take a shot, have them change clothes, sit in the other seat and have them hand something over. It's fun. One of those fun things to play with. So it looks like they're handing themselves something, or multiples of them doing something, and you have them change clothes between the shots. So they really look like they're somebody different. It's a fun thing to play with, just like water droplets. If you're ever taking photos of water dropping into taking a drop of water, drop as liquid, dropping in another thing of liquid, and a little splash it creates, and you capture that with your flash. That's something that's fun to do too. I like doing those little projects, but I hadn't done something this large scale. Not sure I'd have the patience to clone it all out.
I always think about what Don does with those snowflakes. No way.
I've never had the patience to do that.
No way.
I've never had the patience to do that. All right. Well, that is it for this week. Don't forget to go out and enter the contest for this month. Both the regular group and the beginners is open. The theme is open. Anything that you want within PG guidelines. We'd love to have you join those Facebook groups. If you're still a member of Facebook, lots of people have left Facebook, but go out to Facebook and just search for JP to Raw. There's the beginner group. There's the regular group, which is where most of the activity is. There is the boudoir group. There's a sports group, and that I think is it over there. I'd love to have you join one of those. But if you're not on Facebook, you can still get this show from a bunch of different places. Let's go over to JP to Raw and go over to subscribe. And over there, it shows you can get it audio. You can get it on iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or TuneIn. I think that may be all the places. And Podbean, which Podbean is starting to catch up in the release. So I think I don't know what number they're on, but we'll be back in sync here sometime this summer with where we are and where Podbean is. We welcome the Podbean listeners and viewers as that number continues to grow. If you want to get us on video, of course, subscribe on YouTube. That's where it usually is out first. We're also on iTunes on video, large and small, and on Vimeo, which I still put it there. It gets almost no traffic, but for now, I'll keep putting it there. Already, Podbean is much larger audience than the Vimeo audience. So one of those places. If you're watching on YouTube, you can even watch us on your big screen TV, or on your Roku device, or whatever, anything that has access to YouTube. I watch some of the shows I watch on my treadmill through my TV. So we'd love to have you subscribe. Be sure to subscribe on Facebook, on YouTube, and then you even get a little alert when we go live. So until next show, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.